One. Hello. Here we have Bahiyya Khan from South Africa. It's Bahiyya Khan, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And today you're going to talk about social issues as you've experienced them in game development. As someone who is from the global South, you have a big experience with that. So, like I said, this is Bahiyya Khan, and you may know her as Codeine Queen on Twitter. I'll let you talk more
Yeah.
about yourself. So,
Yeah.
and you're also mostly known for your game After Hours, which is related to social issues in games. But before
Yeah.
we get into that, please tell us a bit about yourself and your background.
Okay. Sorry, I'm still just smiling from you saying Codeine Queen. But anyway, uh, so I'm Bahiyya, like Sita said, and I'm from Johannesburg, in South Africa, specifically a place called Lenasia, which is a ghetto that was formed as a result of apartheid spatial planning. Um, and I make video games and I write. I'm currently doing my master's in film, where I'm looking at the way that women of color are represented in coming of age stories. And yeah, I like making games about like social issues, or just, I don't know, just experiences that myself or like the women in my life have been through. Just because I think that uh, a woman of color from South Africa's experiences or life or whatever is very, very much lacking in video games. Sorry, there's a fly flying around. So if you see that, just ignore that. But yeah, so that's stuff about me. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And you studied game design and
Yeah.
at university, and that's where you came up with the idea for After Hours and made it. Could you tell us a bit about like that process?
Sure. So it was in my final year of university of my undergrad. And it was the first time that we were given like an entire year to work on something. And I thought that was it was like really exciting, but also scary because if I was going to like dedicate a year of my life to working on something, I wanted it to be worthwhile. You know, I wanted it to do something. Um, and when I was thinking about what sort of, so I don't know, I guess social issues I wanted to make the game on, that's around the first time I heard the word femicide, which is like the killing of women, you know, the killing of someone based on their gender. And in South Africa, we have one of the highest rates of rape on women in the world. I don't know if it is the highest or whatever. And so many people in my life, so many women, myself included, like have experienced so much of violence, you know, at the hands of men, like sexually, psychologically, emotionally, whatever. So all of that was just like playing in the back of my mind a lot. And then I decided to make a game on somebody who had been sexually abused, and I wanted to show like not that moment of her abuse, but rather who she was afterwards, you know, and show that she still had interest. She was still a person. I hate like the narrative of someone just being a victim, you know, and like that's it. It's like they had a life, you know, before what happened to them happened, and depending on who it is, would they would have a life afterwards. So I wanted to show all of that. And then I also gave the protagonist borderline personality disorder because I feel like that's one of the most stigmatized, least understood mental illnesses. And a lot of the time people who have borderline get it as a result of being abused in their childhood. So I felt like the sexual abuse and then the protagonist having borderline, it would be, I don't want to say interesting because it's not interesting, but a word that's not interesting, just insert that there. I just thought it would be, yeah, like good to show both of those things. And yeah, that's what I did in my final year at university.
Hey, that's cool. And would you be able to just, I guess, in one sentence, tell people what After Hours is as a game?
Yeah, sure. It's a full motion video game, which means it's comprised of film footage about a young woman that was sexually assaulted as a child and has borderline personality disorder as a result of that.
Cool. And I actually want to say, so the first time I met you was, I actually met you was when you were showing your game actually at a festival. And I didn't even know what it was about. But when I saw it, I could get the emotions and everything you actually said, everything you've said. Um, the fact that showing someone is actually a person after the event they've been through, like you actually did that very well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and when I showed the game to other people, they also got that. So yeah, I guess that's why it's an award-winning game. Tell us a bit more about that. Tell us a bit more about, I guess, the how can I say, after the creation of After Hours, the reception and yeah, how you felt after that.
Um, so how I felt after making, actually also while during making After Hours was, I felt really, really bad. Like just like psychologically, I wasn't coping because in working on the game, I started looking at a lot of like rape statistics and reading up on a lot of different people's stories and like sexual assault stories because I kept wanting women who ended up in the news to not just be, a woman who gained some sort of like, I don't know, people knew who they were because of this really awful thing that happened to them. So I tried to like humanize them almost in my mind and think of like the life that they had before um, and like who they were afterwards if they survived, if they weren't like murdered during the process or whatever. And like in doing all of those things, I started becoming like physically sick actually because I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. I just felt so depressed all the time and just thinking like, I don't know why I had this idea that if I made the game, it would somehow like stop um, or I don't know, like do something with regards to women being molested and raped and that sort of thing. So when it didn't happen, because it just felt like I was doing something because I wanted to like change things, and then things weren't changing. In the process of making the game, I kept hearing more and more stories, of things that happened, and yeah, so I was left feeling very very unhappy during the process and afterwards as well. And still currently, which is why I haven't released the game as yet, because I just have a lot of I don't know, just negative feelings around it. And I just have a lot of anxiety about it. Um, but people received the game really well. And something that surprised me was how many like white men, because I thought it would be a game, I don't know why, like that white men would just be like, ugh, or like, oh, that's not a real game or whatever. Actually, I do know why, because in my experience, they have not been kind to my games in the past. So yeah, people were very, very, but like, I don't know if that's the right word to use because a lot of the time it was because they had been through something as well, men and women alike who had been sexually abused, who had borderline personality disorder, who knew someone with borderline personality disorder. They just kept telling me how much like the game got the experience, of like what it's like to be sexually abused or to have borderline personality disorder. And like, I wish so much that they couldn't relate to it, And like I stress in the beginning of the game that the game's not meant to depict everyone's who has been sexually abused or who has borderline personality disorder, but just seeing how many people it affected and who felt some sort of like validation, in their response to things or in who they were. That was really, really cool. That's way better than, sounds like kind of lame, but honestly, it's way better than like winning the IGF award and all the other awards that we won because of After Hours. Because the reason that I set out to make it was to help people. And it didn't help in the way that I thought it would, but it definitely did. You know, I get like a lot of DMs on Twitter as well from people who might not confront me like at an exhibition because they feel too like uncomfortable or don't know how to process the feelings after playing the game. And the DMs that I get are like, it makes me feel like I did something right with my life, because I always feel like a big flipping idiot. So like, yeah, after hours feels like the one thing that I did right, even though it like messed me up a lot mentally.
I can definitely imagine that because just taking in the news of all the cases of femicide in South Africa is exhausting and very scary as a woman. So I can imagine, or rather, I can't imagine, but I feel, but I can see that it's probably something that would take a real toll on you, working on it
Yeah.
for a year. Um, yeah, and I'm glad that you feel that you're able to see like how it's doing good, because also I learned about borderline personality disorder for the first time from playing after hours. Um,
Oh,
so yeah, I think it's great. And let's see. Even though you haven't released it to more people yet, I'm sure you'll still get some great reception from that. Would you be able to tell us about any other projects you have relating to social issues in games, or anything else you want to say about After Hours as well?
yeah. Global side, like making after hours, like Lenasia. Okay. Okay, I'm taking your silence. Is that okay? I don't know.
Oh, sorry, I got cut off for a bit. I think I had to close another program so it didn't get cut off.
Okay. I was just saying that like sorry, I lifted my knee up and then saw my pajamas actually were showing. Yeah, I said I can speak about like some of the issues I faced as like a person from Lenasia, working on after hours, and just like in my degree generally.
Yeah, I think that would be great to hear. Let's hear about the people from
Okay.
Malaysia.
Okay. Um, so for the viewers at home, yeah, I come from Lenasia, but we just call it Lens. So I'm just gonna call it Lens for the purpose of this video. And yeah, it's like there's a lot of crime here. You know, it's like impoverished in a lot of places, lots of crime, lower income people, all of that. So like often when I go to university, there's this where people throw like massive like onto like steal from me. And like while I was working on after hours, one morning I was driving with my father, yeah, to university, and we hit one of those rocks. It looks like I'm laughing. I am, but it's, you know, people do that to process trauma. But it was, I won the Maze Award in South Africa. I mean, in Berlin, sorry. So many awards, you know, to keep track of. Yeah, so when we won the award in Berlin, I got a publishing deal with Humble Bundle, and I had the game like due, and then that happened with like the rock hitting our car, and it was so so scary. Like I felt shaken up for long that it's humble about, and like they'd understand it. I was talking to like a white American man. I didn't know how would I say like, hey, sorry, you know, I say people do lots of crime, so they threw like a you know, car or whatever. And then like, you know, if I didn't live in Lens, if I lived in like a nice area, I wouldn't be going like having, I don't know, like a rock thrown at our car, or we hit the rock or whatever and stuff like that. And then also just like adversity, I kept having to, I only got the internet in July this year for the first time in my life. And it was extremely, extremely difficult. I mean, like aside from the internet on my phone, to go to university and study a digital at home. You know, like in my first year, I kept going to so many different boys' houses. Like I might actually make a game about all the boys' rooms I've seen because I'd have to use their internet. That's a good idea. Yeah, I don't know. I just kept having to do that, and then going into university on the weekends, and like it was like a drive, you know, for my mother to take me every weekend, or my sisters or whatever, and then come and pick me up. And it was expensive as well, like for petrol, because I don't live close to it. And then also people in my course would be real like lectures alike, like making very like horrible comments, you know, about where I come from. Like white and people of color alike would do this because the people of color are like coming from the north of Joburg. So I don't know, they were considered themselves white adjacent. Yeah, they'd make like really horrible comments about my accent, about the way that I spoke. They'd like asked me if I was going to stab them because I came from Lens and things like that. So I got really, really depressed in my first year. Actually ended up getting hospitalized because I was so in a very, very bad place mentally. And then I turned 20 and I thought, F it, you know, whatever. I don't care what boys think. I don't care what these white people think, or anyone who's acting like a cow towards me. And I found Thomas Was Alone. That was the first game I played where I felt like, whoa, you know, I can make games that make you feel something really nice. And then I stayed in game design. And yeah, look at me now, unemployed with an IGF award, living the dream.
Things will turn around eventually. But you're still young. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter like how young I am. I come from a brown household. After high school, they like, where's the bulb?
Oh yes.
You
Actually,
know,
yeah.
contributing. So yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me
Oh, the
right
other
now. Oh, sorry.
thing that you said was, do I want? Hello?
Yeah, sorry, there
Oh,
was
yeah, I
just some
can.
delay. So you
Um,
can keep talking.
yeah, I was just gonna say that the other thing that you mentioned to social issues or whatever. And yeah, I guess that's all my games, even the games about My Chemical Romance. You know, it's related to my specific social issue of being their biggest fan and having zero recognition from them. But anyway, the other games that I've made that deal with like specific to South Africa or whatever. I made this game. A lot of the games that I make, it's like maybe I should just not say that part. Sorry, my filter is a bit off for the past 20 odd years. Yeah, so anyway, the game that I made recently was about like teenage girl of color who is addicted to going on to like, I'm not sure if you know what a campsite is, but yeah,
Yeah.
for those of you that don't know, okay, but yeah, for those of you that don't know, it's like a place where you can watch or interact with people who are selling sex, basically. Or they might not be selling it; they might just be doing it, and you don't have to pay for it. So this girl like goes onto that site, not because she wants to sell any, because there's a lot of like older guys on that site, and she's 16 lying and saying she was like 19 or whatever. And yeah, it's basically just about like the way that women perceive themselves and how you feel better about yourself when it comes from a man, you know, or like in her case, and that sort of thing, and like just basically like the male gaze and the female gaze. I was looking at that in the game and how she has like a very disinterested mother. She doesn't really have any friends or anyone that makes her feel validated in herself. So like, yeah, I made a game about that. And I like the fact that I made her Muslim as well, because all my protagonists are Muslim, just by default. And yeah, just because I feel like young or women sex game a way that doesn't do like and then the other games that I make have been about like it's all to do with girls, you know, besides the one game that I made, but like it's also about a girl coming with like her parents who are still very much like white people are about excellence, and how like the legacy of apartheid is ruining her life, you know, because there's so many like awful things being passed down to her from her parents, and just like a lot to do with colorism, and how all of that results in like a very awful thing happening at the end where she gets sexually assaulted at a World Cup game, because in 2010 South Africa, that's when the game said hosted the World Cup. And yeah, I made games about like the war in Palestine and stuff like that as well. All things that I don't see happening in video games. I don't know if they exist. I don't play that many games. But it's just things that I'm interested in speaking about and like having a conversation with myself really about those sorts of things, and hoping or makes them laugh or whatever.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And it sounds like you found a really great medium to tell your stories in, because you're bringing something fresh into the game development world. But I also understand that you are now studying film, which I think still connects well to your game background.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, could you tell us a bit about, I guess, what what advice would you give actually for someone who would like to connect or tell their stories through games or film?
You should try to make sure that it's told by like a human being, you know, instead of just like following whatever you think a story is supposed to sound like or go like or look like. It should just try and feel as feel, you know, not like it should feel like you, I don't know, like it's coming from a person. Unless your story is told by not a person. But like I think that authenticity and honesty and like just seeing someone being genuine, that really comes across so much in a person's work. So yeah, and also there isn't like there's some things I wish I could have done differently with after hours and whatever, but it's fine, it's done. You know, it's not like, oh, my whole life is ruined because I didn't like add one thing that I want to do in a game or whatever. It doesn't matter. You know, you have so many opportunities to tell stories. I could make the same game like 1,000 times, and it would have something different all the time. So I just feel like have fun with it. Make sure that you're looking after yourself, and don't try and like copy other people. I guess just just do you. I was gonna say be yourself, but that sounded like, I don't know. I felt like I was on Soul Bodies for a moment. I don't know if you know that show. If it was like big in Zambia.
No, Soul Buddies?
Yeah, it was. I think it used to be on SABC One, like when I was like 8, and it was about like empowerment and stuff. But never mind.
I just saw the picture. It looks like something that would have been on TV. I used to see a lot of South African shows
Yeah,
that I didn't know the name of. All right, thank you so much
yeah.
for speaking with us, Bahiyya. Do you have anything else you want to say before we leave?
Um, yeah, I guess to like all of the black and brown girls watching, if there are people being awful to you in your class, they are losers, and I'm so sorry, and you don't deserve that, and you deserve so much better. You're not going to be in high school or university forever, you know? And like people's ignorance. Sorry, I can hear my 6-year-old neighbor screaming. And yeah, people's like willful ignorance and them being awful is not a reflection of you. And you absolutely deserve to be in the games industry if you want to be here. You know, there's absolutely no reason in the world why someone deserves it more than you do.
Oh my gosh, I second that, also coming from a fellow brown girl. And yeah, I really hope My Chemical Romance will finally acknowledge you as a member. Thank you so much for everything, Bahiyya. Bye.
Thank you so much for having me, Siti.